Hello neighbor, this is Kurt at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at the Thule ReVert 4-bike rack on a 2024 Toyota Tacoma. Now if you have any experience with this particular bike rack, please leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your experience and share your story with other neighbors just to help them make the best decision for themselves. This bike rack is going to hold 4 bikes side by side vertically. You'll notice up here at the top that they are tilted over. As you can see, all of these wheel brackets up at the top are really to the side of where the straps are. So you want the wheel to be here, tilted up this way, and what that's going to do is clear the handlebars to give you more space to put these bikes side by side. So we have these adjustable rubber straps mounted on the front tire and on the back tire to secure it to the bike rack. It's secured nice and tight there. And we also want to show you the feature of the tilt feature, which has an assisted gas strut, because once you have 4 bikes on here, this will be awfully heavy to tilt back and forth. And you could start that process by first undoing this safety pin and latch. Pulling down this lever and pulling back on it to tilt. Now you have to give it a pretty good tug to get it down, and that's because that gas strut really is going to be helping us out with powering it all back into the upright position. Now that we have that tilted down, we can see what kind of tailgate clearance we'll have on the Tacoma. And unfortunately, this does not quite clear all the way down. This would be enough to get you access to the back of the truck. However, I would not recommend putting any kind of weight on the tailgate itself so you don't do any damage to the tailgate or your bike rack. Now that we're ready to tilt it back up, all we really need to do is put this lever back down, and the lift assist gets it right back up, back into place for us. We can reapply our safety pin and latch. And now we've got everything up here nice and secure. You may notice too that you're not getting a whole lot of movement out of it when you're shaking it like this. And that's because the shank of this bike rack, the way that it goes into the receiver, actually has a wedge system inside that's going to help expand it and then secure it within the hitch to get rid of all that loose rattle and vibration that you're going to get on the road otherwise. The way that that is going to work is right down here. So it goes into the 2x2 inch shaft. There's an arm here that's locked and secure that will go into the pinhole for you. And between that and the shaft itself, this hand crank here is going to tighten that up. And this hand crank is lockable. And all you'd simply need to do in order to tighten it and loosen it is rotate this clockwise and counterclockwise for tightening and for loosening. And once you get it good and secure where you got no rattle, you can go ahead and latch it back down and lock it in place for security. We're going to have some limited visibility behind the truck when we've got this bike rack on, so let's take a look at what kind of added clearance we're going to need when we have this bike on and fully loaded. Now we've got about a 5-inch difference between the end of the tire and the top of the seat here, so to get our overall clearance in the back, we'll measure from the bumper to the end of the wheel, which is going to give us about 46.5 inches added to the 5. That's about 51.5 inches of extra clearance you need behind this. So bear that in mind when you're parking or maneuvering through smaller areas. You're going to want to make sure that you're able to get around that. Now, as far as ground clearance goes, we want to make sure we're not going to bottom out anywhere. The height on this particular hitch is at a pretty standard height. So I'm not really all that worried about bottoming out, but it's always good to kind of double check just to see where we're at. So from the ground up, we're going to have about a 23-inch clearance to the farthest part of the bike rack. From the bottom of the shank to the ground, we're at about 15.5 inches on this Tacoma. So I'm not really worried about any kind of bottoming out issues, even on a more steep incline of a driveway or any other type of road like that. This doesn't really come out far enough to make me concerned with it bottoming out anywhere. So I think this is a pretty good fit on the back of the Tacoma as far as our clearances go. Now, this bike rack's capacity is able to hold 55 pounds per bike, And the bike rack itself weighs 72 pounds. So that puts us fully loaded if we max it out at 292 pounds. It's always a good idea to double check your hitch and make sure that the tongue weight capacity exceeds that, because we don't want to do any damage to the rack, to your hitch, or to any other vehicles on the road if somehow this exceeds that. Now the Thule ReVert bike rack also comes in a 6-bike version. However, with the Tacoma being a smaller 4-passenger truck and being a narrower truck, that might be a bit more than you need. But there are some additional accessories you can get for this rack if you have some bikes that, say, for instance, have a tire wider than 3 inches, if you have a fat bike. There are adapters that you can get for this that's going to allow you to carry a bike like that. We also have an adapter for a kid's bike if you wanted to put a kid's bike on here, mainly because the wheelbase setup as it is a bit too long for most kids' bikes. So you have a conversion kit for that as well. We also have a repair kit available at eTrailer that'll allow you to mount your bike facing out, suspended in the air, to allow you to do any kind of necessary repairs for it while you're out on the road or out on the trail. So overall, I think this is a fantastic option for a bike rack for your Toyota Tacoma. It's got great ground clearance. The gas strut assist in getting it up and down is nice. It is a little disappointing that it doesn't clear the tailgate. However, if you have access to the bed, if you don't have a camper shell or anything like that on it, you should still be able to get most things out of the bed and get partial access to it that way. So with that being said, this is Kurt at eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.